Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to another Starter Set Saturday video. Today's subject is voted on by you, the viewer, is the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu Starter Set. The last poll was horror themed and just in time to be released 8 days after Halloween. We have the Call of Cthulhu. Now I'm going to be taking a look at the 2018 version of the starter set. It was re-released in, I think it was 2020 or 2021. I don't see a date on the outside of the box. But it was re-released with this style cover. And this is the current version that you'd be able to find. Like, Chaosium just posted some stuff from a convention that they're at. And this is the current version, but it is the same basic contents. The only thing that may have changed, there might be some slight errata and rules updates there, but otherwise, it's the exact same content inside the box. It's just slightly different presentation. So this is the one that I'm going to be looking at here. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I really like this box set. Now, number one, I prefer the artwork on the 2018 version. If we're going to be completely and totally honest, I would say that the current version is probably more accurate to the atmosphere and the feel of like the Call of Cthulhu role playing game. But I will say that this one is far more just visually appealing and interesting because you've got sort of like these bright colors, or I guess they're a little muted, but you do have this range of colors and everything's not just different shades of green. I mean, the new Call of Cthulhu box looks fine, but it kind of reminds me of my old Game Boy from like back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So yeah, that's what we're looking at here. Like I said, I really like the artwork on the front, and on the back we just have a preview of what I think this is the artwork for the core rulebook, and a breakdown of the contents that are inside. And we'll take a look here at those contents as well, because they do factor in to the presentation aspect of this as well. So you got kind of like the blood splotch across the top there, and we've got our different books, and there's some really nice artwork included in these books as well. So really overall, like, very impressive, as far as like the presentation goes. Some really nice artwork in here. We also have some handouts included here as well. The pre-gen characters are also in full color, which is really cool to see. And we do have some blank character sheets here as well. I've also printed off a whole bunch of other character sheets, and they're just kind of in there. They're not included. I just printed them off myself and put them in there. We do have our basic set of dice, and we do have like handouts, including some like newspaper clipping styles, and we do have like I don't want to give too much away. And we also have like some maps and stuff in there as well. So the presentation is really well done, very solid. I like the artwork included. I like the cover art. The physical construction of the box is also really nice and sturdy. So I'm going to give the presentation and physical production quality, or the category, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Like I said, there's some really high quality handout. There's some great artwork throughout. I love the cover art on the box. It's a little more cartoonish than the current version, but I think that's kind of more endearing and visually eye-catching. Like, if I were to go into a game store and both of these were on the shelf, this one would catch my attention before this one did, just personally speaking. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for the presentation and production. Really, really well done. Up next, we've got the quality of the rules. And so the rules come in like two different forms. So the first one here, we actually have a standalone solo adventure, which is sort of a choose your own adventure type of thing. But as you're going through it, it does get you to sort of like fill out or learn how to read your character sheet. So it does teach the base mechanics of the game as you go, as well as presenting sort of the flavor and the atmosphere. And then we get into the actual rulebook itself. This is it's a thin booklet, but it's really good for what is in here, because a large focus of this set, or of this rulebook, is about creating your character, and it uses what's referred to as sort of like the quick start character creation method. And this is my favorite version of character creation. So even when we moved on to having the full core rulebook, and players were making characters for scenarios that I created myself, we were still using this version of the character creation. So I was using this rule booklet quite a bit. So it has everything you need for creating your character, descriptions of your skills, backstory, final touches, and then it goes into the actual game system, how to read the dice, different effects like sanity and manias and phobias, combat. So all kinds of stuff in here. So it's a really, really well done rule booklet that is worth referencing even after you get the full core rules. Now there are aspects of it that are going to be missing. Obviously, like as a starter set, it does not have any rules for like spell casting or like finding like spell books and tomes and things along those lines, which is a bit of a shame. Because like the first scenario revolves around books, so it could have been nice to have had like just a really simplified version of that mechanic in there. So that's an aspect of the game that is missing from the rules, but it's still really well done. They really well put together and has my favorite version of character creation. So once again, I'm going to give the rules quality. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I don't take away points for lack of character creation, but I do add a point if there are like character creation on top of your pre-gen characters, which is exactly what we have here. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for the rules quality. Now, the next section here is going to be the adventure quality, and this is another really top-notch aspect of the game as well. So I mentioned before we do have a solo adventure to go through, and I've had some other starter sets that have had like a solo thing that you can do that takes you through like one or two minor things. This is one of the most like in-depth and comprehensive solo scenarios that I've ever seen included with a starter set. The only one that might compete with it was the D&D Essentials Red Box one, because that was how you created your entire character there as well. But this is just a really solid scenario here. I did play through this on my channel years ago, back when I first got this, which I can't remember if it was 2018 or if I got it like 2019 or something like that, or 20. It might have been actually been 2020. It might have been during the. No, I'm pretty sure it was pre-COVID actually. Anyway, I can't remember exactly when I ended up getting this, but yeah, the solo adventure is really great, and they also have other solo scenarios that like come in the form of like proper books. So this is Alone Against the Flames, but there's Alone Against. I think it's Alone Against the Frost. There's like Alone Against the Darkness. So it's really cool to see like that included here as well. And then for the actual scenario book, we do have 3 different scenarios included in here that are mostly designed for like the pre-gen characters, although you can create your own if you wish. And the first one here, Paper Chase, is it's actually in a scenario that's been around for a while, because I do have the second edition like classic 2-inch box set. And that has a bunch of like classic adventures and modules and stuff from Call of Cthulhu, and Paper Chase was in there as well. But this is for 1 to 2 players. So this is one of the things that I do kind of like about the scenarios. You do have a solo one, which would be immediately easy to play, because all you need is yourself. And if you can only get like one other person on board to start a Call of Cthulhu game, you still have a scenario that you can play with them that should take it should only be about a single session, but you might be able to stretch it out to a second one there if you really, really tried. And then we've got these next 2 scenarios, which were designed for full groups. So they were designed for like a full group of player characters, including, trying to fulfill a mentor character's like dying wish as he and his friends in their youth unleash something vile into the world that was only held at bay by the summoner's life force. And with him, with their mentor person about to die, he leaves this like sarcophagus that has runes inside of it, and the players have to discover, the connection to that and the creature that was summoned and the ritual to essentially dispel it. It's a really cool scenario. This does sort of dabble a little bit into, again, like the side of like using magic because you are using a ritual, but it's not. It would have been nice to again have had like some other spell casting stuff available in there as well. But still, again, a pretty thorough and lots of stuff to do. I think they said this one could take, I think the thing says it takes like 2 to 3 sessions of gameplay to go through. So again, you could probably stretch that out a little bit more if you do a lot of like role playing and stuff. But really cool to see. And then the final scenario involves, sort of a cursed relic that a musical instrument that is so invigorating when people listen to it that it actually brings people back from the dead. So it's really cool to see here again, sort of these different scenarios included. This one does sort of go into a bit of the more unpleasant aspects of like H.P. Lovecraft's time period, and the personal views that were prevalent during that time period. But still, it is an interesting scenario to have here nonetheless. And again, I think you could substitute like this for any other location. Really, like it doesn't have to be specifically where it's put in the box set. But it's still, again, a cool scenario to have there, and you can get another couple sessions out of it. So as far as like a starter set goes, you're getting a ton of gameplay out of this box set. I mean, let's just say that, you get, one session out of the solo thing to teach yourself as just the person who owns the box set, another session to play the paper chase, but then you've got another like 5 or 6 sessions that you might be able to get out of the other scenarios. So, total gameplay, if you could get like 4 to 5 or 6 gameplay sessions, out of a starter set, that's a really, really good, a really good amount of gameplay for one box set, especially one that's teaching you the game and sort of meant to be that first impression. The adventures, the only thing I wish about the adventures or the scenarios is that they could have been connected together. Like it would have been nice to have seen a story element that sort of develops over the course of all 3, maybe sort of concluding in like a 4th act of the final scenario to kind of put everything to rest. Like, when it comes to the great old ones and their cults, like their schemes tend to be like far-reaching and needlessly convoluted. So it would have been nice to have had like them connected in some way, especially if you're playing like the same investigators going through. But they do feel like 3 kind of unrelated stories, but they're still decent. They're still pretty good. You're still going to get lots of gameplay out of it. So again, along with the rules quality and the presentation, I'm going to give the adventure quality an 8 out of 10. I was on the fence between 8 or 9, but whenever I'm undecided between 2 different scores, I always take the lower end just to be kind of, on the safe side. So we're going to go with an 8 out of 10. If I were doing like partial numbers, then this would have been an easy 8.5 out of 10, but we're not doing that. We're doing whole numbers and then averaging them together. So 8 out of 10 it is for that. And then we come down to the final category, which is the value for what you're paying for. Now, the retail price is printed on the back of this box as $24.99 US. I believe that's the same price as the current one. So the current one is still listed at $24.99, or at least it was. I don't know if the price has increased kind of since then. So that works out to anywhere from $30 to $35 Canadian, $24.99 US. And for that amount of money, again, you cannot complain about, the quality of what you're getting here. You're getting, multiple sessions of gameplay, you're getting maps, you're getting handouts, you've got, your set of dice, you've got your pre-gen characters, you have blank character sheets that you can use to create your own characters as well. So you've got so many options and just a really, really well put together product here. So I'm going to give the value for your dollar a 9 out of 10. That was a pretty easy number to come by when looking through everything here. So before we get to the final score, I always like to go over like the pros and cons of these starter sets. And I always go over the cons first because I prefer to end on a positive note. And I'm going to be honest, there's really not a lot here that I could say that I found that I, would use as really a criticism against the box set. Let me just get these in the proper order so they can go in the box here. All right, so for the cons, what I came up with was basically what I said earlier. I wish that the 3 scenarios included in the scenario book would have been combined together to tell a larger story. And if it does, maybe it, like flipping through it, reading through them, these scenarios, it doesn't seem like that's the case unless I just really, really missed it. But if that's the case, then I apologize, but it really doesn't look that way. They do feel like 3 very separate scenarios from one another. You're playing investigators, called to these different areas to search for things. So I get that, the reason why maybe they're not, but it would have been cool to have seen something connecting them all together. And the other thing that I could think of as a negative is just simply that, like, cosmic horror is a niche thing, and it's going to have a bit of limited appeal. So it's a little harder and I've noticed that it's a little harder for me to set up a Call of Cthulhu game than it would be like a Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder type of experience. So it's one of those things where I'm glad that it has the solo and the 1 to 2 player scenario included in the adventure, because it's going to be hard to get that full table, but if you only get 1 or 2 friends, then at least you can still run something, and you could even run like NPCs to finish out the other 2 scenarios as well. But it is something where it is going to be harder to fill those tables than if you're playing a more like traditional fantasy RPG. And that's it. Those are the only 2 real negatives. And truthfully, I was kind of grasping, and they're more nitpicks than anything else. On the positive side, you do get this solo adventure, which is really great at teaching the base mechanics, as well as it's being really well fleshed out, and like a very substantial solo scenario to go through. When I did my playthrough of it on the channel, I think it was in 2 or 3 parts. I can't remember exactly now, but it was at least 2 different videos to get through it there. So it's a pretty hefty solo scenario. And something that is not included in very many other starter sets. The single player or 1 to 2 player scenario does make it easier to get a game going, because you have at least that 1 scenario to play through. The character creation rules are great. The art is really good throughout. The quality of the handouts is really, really good, really useful. So overall, just a really, really solid box set. And, with the presentation and production quality being an 8 out of 10, the rules quality being an 8 out of 10, the adventure quality being an 8 out of 10, and the value for your dollar being a 9 out of 10, this box set, starter set, comes in at an 8.25 out of 10. And truthfully, it could be a little bit higher. Like any of those other categories could have easily been a 9 out of 10 as well. But I want the 9s to feel a bit more special, a bit more rare. So, and if I'm kind of conflicted between 2 different values, like I said, I'll always choose the lower one to sort of hedge my bets. But if you pick up this set, I think you're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. And again, like, this is the version that you'll be finding nowadays in stores. Although I will say, I think that this artwork here is a bit more, maybe, it's a bit more cartoony, but I find it to be a bit more charming, whereas this one feels kind of oppressive. And, it's all green, shades of green, a little bit of yellow kind of dotted in there. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of my Game Boy for some reason whenever I look at it. But this box set here, I saw this at my local game store sitting on the shelf, and the second I saw it, my eyes were immediately drawn to it, and I had to have it. So I bought it right then and there. And yeah, I think, you're going to have a great time with it. It does a really good job of establishing sort of like the feel of Call of Cthulhu, the types of scenarios and situations you may find yourself up against. It just does a really, really great job. And again, character creation options along with pre-gens giving you, flexibility there is always going to be a point in a starter set's favor. because it's teaching you more than just the mechanics. It's actually teaching you how to create and play your character. So absolutely love that. So yeah, 8.25 out of 10 for the overall score, I think is a pretty fair one. Let me know in the comments below, have you picked up the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition starter set? If so, which version do you have, the 2018 or the current version with the green cover art and everything? Have you played through the scenarios? And if so, how did those experiences go for you? I've run Call of Cthulhu games, but I actually didn't run any of the scenarios included in the starter set. I always had my own that I kind of written and run for different groups, and I've really enjoyed doing it. But one of these days, I just got to sit down and run the starter set scenarios because they're definitely worthy of it. So thank you all so very much for your time once again. The next poll is already up on the channel, so that video will be coming out in a few weeks' time. And until then, thank you for your time. It means the world to me. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.